Deanall, we're really excited to have you on. I see you have a lot of experience. I mean, before the podcast, you called
Mhm.
yourself a young-ish man, but I see that you've spent quite a bit of time within the whole manufacturing or construction, I should say, industry. One and the same, because you're at ARC manufacturing for about 10 years
No,
or over 10 years.
yeah, man, it's a little more than that. I
Wow.
started out, my first managerial sojourn was actually at ARC, was when I was younger. I don't want to say when I was young, because there's still evidence within me
That is it.
believe that I'm young. But yeah, and I started out as a manager. I rose through the ranks to become the president and CEO, and then thereafter ventured into law and here at Atlantic.
All right.
What made you take those steps though? Because that, to me, you're going from an amazing role at one of the biggest companies in Jamaica, and then you went into law, and now talk to us. Like, what was the thought process? Or, why would you take those steps?
Well, first and foremost, I completed my second degree by about 27 years old. I think I started at ARC at 28 as manager research and strategy. And clearly, I would have had some experience in research, but strategy, I knew nothing. I knew very little about the construction industry. Yes, I could identify cement, perhaps lumber, I could identify, but I was not intimate with it. So over time, I got on the ground and started learning from the security guard straight up to the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So within a year and a half, I was promoted to assistant vice president, and then I took on was given the procurement portfolio at ARC. And by having the procurement portfolio, I had the opportunity to buy everything for the company all over the world, different planets. So I've had the privilege of perhaps traveling to about close to 40 countries, having different appreciation of business, of culture. And I think that propelled me with the knowledge that I have in finance with up the ranks. But whilst there, perhaps I was vice president by then or senior vice president. I wanted to do another master's, so I applied to the University of Manchester, and I was about to start the MBA there at University of Manchester. And I said, you know what? Nah, I don't want another master's. I'm going to do this law thing. Applied to the University of London, and as they would say, the rest is history. So I'm not one of those persons who granny dreams that them grandson are gonna be a lawyer, or had any insatiable appetite for the law. Is, if as people would say, just happened. But also when I examine it, when I start getting into it, I realize it's a nice little hobby, so to speak, and also it provided me with an opportunity. If you're laid off, if you're made redundant, if you're fired, there is a source of income. So I realized that actually law provided a significant avenue to generate more resources, more personal resources, but it also provided me with an insurance. If a corporate ladder don't work out for you, then okay, fine, I'll go the route of law. So for my trajectory in the legal profession is a little bit different from the average person. So that's why I ended up in law. But otherwise from that though, the moving from ARC, so to speak, to law, then to Atlantic, clearly after you reach a certain level in an organization, unless there's some degree of equity, then persons like myself believe that there is no equity.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 naturally at that point in time you wanted to build something for yourself or anything that you're engaged in. You want to ensure at the end of the day that you're not a stakeholder in its general term, but you're a shareholder. The avenues were not provided, and then that's okay, fine. I built my thing, went out, started practicing, and then I met my chairman, the Honorable PV Scott, and I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I mean before that, I was telling him that there was a company in the in the construction industrial building material distributive trade that was for sale. But of mine wanted to sell the company. So I, for a better term, reintroduced him to the project. And I said, well, then I'll fine. We can take a look at it. If it makes commercial sense, then we proceed. But the only issue is that you'd have to come and run it for us because we don't know that. We buy
Yeah.
business. So I said to him, all right, no problem. I have a proviso. So him say, what's that? He said, well, any business that I'm running, I have to own it, or own piece of it. He said, "That's no problem with me as well." And as they would say, the rest is history. We negotiate purchase. I stepped down from my lofty or not so lofty position of being an attorney back to being president and CEO of a smaller business, but with the potential to grow. That
Wow.
Right.
it's more than a
Yeah.
mouth, but it's a synopsis of what transpired.
No, what
Yeah.
a story. I think you've laid it out quite well. You know, I mean, one of the key things that if you want to build wealth, if you look at it, almost everyone who has got wealthy is really through ownership. So they own some asset. So it's not just work. Like, yes, you can have a job, but then the extra money, the money that you make from it, you need to buy something that's worth value. So you need to own it. Like, just like if you had just kept working, and you didn't get that equity stake, it's like what happens if, you know, eventually when you leave the company, you have something that's paying you dividends. And then that could be, you know, helping your children or your family and things like that. It's really ownership.
Well, exactly. I mean, I have looked at a few wills, and I have never seen on a will salary, because you really they cannot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something I often say to when asked to speak at different forums, I said, listen, mate, you can't will your salary, so you need to find a way to start. Most persons believe that you can only make money with millions, but not realizing that it's $1,000,001 that actually makes a million. So you have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, those are bars.